What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Lunch with the Clydesdale. I am here, at least in spirit, if not in body. I actually contemplated not doing the show today, but want to stay consistent and be here for you guys every day. Man, I was thinking when I was younger, like I could go out drinking with my buddies or my wife and light it up and get home at 3 o'clock in the morning and get 4 hours sleep and bounce back and go to work the next day and not even feel any effects. Now I don't drink at all, but if I don't get like 7 to 8 hours sleep, I am like a dog turd in the morning. I woke up today. It was a rough night. Had a lot to do with just taking care of my wife and the dog and all that kind of stuff. And then I had to be back to work this morning and I got very little sleep last night. And I am on the struggle bus, just trying to stay awake through my work day. Oh my goodness. Anybody else experience that as you get older, where you just like sleep has become so important in my life? And not that I like sleep a ton, but if I don't get that 7 to 8 hours, man, I'm a complete dog turd the next day. And that's how I feel right now. So, but I wanted to jump on, talk a little bit, hang out with you guys. So, the first things first, last night, Caroline and I had a great show. If you did not watch Sunday Night CrossFit Talk, you need to go check that out. There was some great discussion last night, great comments in the chat. You need to go check that out. But one thing that I posed a question to her is, with this new season format, do we have to change the way we look at training? Because forever, CrossFit has been train, peak for this big event, and then do that big event. As we're moving forward through CrossFit, the whatever it's going to become, we've added more off-season competitions. So now we have Rogue, now we have Dubai, now we have Wadapalooza. Now we have Reps Ahead that's come in, adding another element to the season. We've added the World Fitness Project now, adding more competitions, qualifiers, etc. Now we've added more in-person qualifying events, which have their own qualifiers and those in the season. And so I just got breaking news. Mike McCarthy is out as Cowboys head coach, just got let go or did not get re-signed today. So there's news there. So anyway, you have this season that goes on, and is it going to become where if you want to be in more events, you need to be more consistent through the season as opposed to peaked during the season? Like, find a way to train where your body can perform more often at a greater rate at the highest quality possible for that, than just train, peak for this big event at the end of the year. I think this is what the athletes have been clamoring for a very long time, is they want more opportunity. They want to professionalize the sport, but with that comes, with the more opportunity, comes a different way that you have to look at the season. And we hear people like at Crash say, hey, I did okay, but I wasn't peaked for this. Or that seems to be like the relative excuse at all of these different events when someone doesn't do well. Well, I wasn't peaked for this. Well, I think in the new style of CrossFit, you're not going to be peaked for things anymore. You are going to have to be the best you can be in that moment to compete. Now, the World Fitness Project has one thing right on this. You earn points at every event throughout the season, showing that the most consistent athlete gets to the end. Where in the CrossFit Games season, it's an elimination style. So either they're not really focused on consistency, and maybe that's where there needs to be a tweak or something they can learn from this competitor, that maybe they need to come up with a way to show consistency to get you to the finals. And then the most consistent people throughout the season are the ones that go to the CrossFit Games. Because with an elimination style, if you are not ready to go in some of these events where they only take the top two, you are not going to make it to the CrossFit Games. Kenneth, whatever happened to don't get ready, stay ready? Right. I mean, isn't that kind of what CrossFit is built on? Readiness, readiness for the unknowable, the unexpected, to be able to jump in and save someone from a burning building, or jump in and be able to um, lift a car. Or, I mean, those are extreme examples, but when I first joined CrossFit, it was all about um, functional fitness and being ready to jump into action when called to, when emergency situations happened. Yes, the sport is a little bit different, but I like the concept of, hey, let's stay as consistent as we can throughout the season, as opposed to let's beat the body up and peak for this. One, I think your athletic career will last longer. You won't beat up your body. You won't hear the stories of like Rich Froning and his knees and things like that. I think that it's an alternative way of looking at the season, but I do think that it's almost the right way to do it. Maybe it's time to write this season and look at functional, being able to be ready at any time to do things. And then you have more opportunities throughout the season to show what you can do. And so I want to hit a couple of these from Train to Live. Love more competitions, hopefully with reliable streaming options. Couldn't agree with you more. We need a way to stream all of these events that are going on. It doesn't have to be perfect off the get-go, but we have to get there. Gives more opportunities for behind the scenes with athletes on how their training may be changing with increased opportunities. Yeah. My biggest worry, like in this, is I think that would be fascinating. But I think what is crazy is I think a lot of the athletes, that's going to be to their advantage at first. And we may have a little more undercover training for a little bit as people are trying to figure this out. They don't want to give up the secrets that they think are going to make them more successful in the new way the season is going to hit. And so we may not get the wide open, hey, this is how I'm training for a little bit. But I think that once we do, it's going to be fascinating to see who changed what, how it worked. Maybe people admitting that they didn't change fast enough, things like that. I think that would make some fascinating documentary behind the scenes stuff with athletes, for sure. And anytime we can get more media content, it's good for us junkies who love to like watch it all. It's good for CrossFit and it's good for the athletes. So speaking of which, I cannot wait to watch Hiller's video with Alexis Raptis. She's always been a fascinating individual to me. I can't wait to learn more about her. I just have not had time this morning with work to dive into that. And I dove into the Mayhem podcast because they advertised it as preview of the season. It really was not that. And so I got stuck into that. And we'll talk about that here in a second. We've all seen what works for one doesn't work for all. Example, Fraser and Froning's programming breaking some people. I don't disagree at all. Some people were just built to train all the time. And Rich trained every day. He did not take time off. where Matt took big chunks of time off and then went at it in a very dedicated, silo focused way, which is interesting. I just watched the Hiller video. Alexis is awesome. She is. I got to interview her one time, and I actually interviewed her when I was with Morning Chalk Up at the West Coast Classic right before the final event, where she ended up losing her spot to the games. Um, and I always wondered, like, did she think of me as bad luck because I interviewed her right before that moment? But she's awesome. She's always been cool to talk to at events. Um, I'd love to get her on again because I find her very fascinating, and I do believe, like, all the things that she has struggled with in her career, she's could be a sneaky surprise podium finisher at the games or at some of these big events because she's overcome so much. What do you think about Reps Ahead being at Wadapalooza on Thursday? I think it's awesome. I think anytime that you get to highlight athletes, and what I like about Reps Ahead, there's a couple things they do really, really well. One, it's one-on-one, so it's really easy to watch the race. Two, they have the rep counters very visible, so you can see, the story immediately. Who has more reps than the other person? The person in green has more, the person in red has less, and the count. And I hope that people stick around to watch this group do it after the final individual event on Thursday night, because it's a great lineup. Hopper versus Pepper, and it is going to include an Echo bike, which I think is really cool. They want to test who's the fittest, who's the king of the Echo bike, and they're going to get that opportunity. And so I think that's great. And Gazan versus Lawson. We really haven't seen Emma since the games. It's going to be interesting to see how she looks. If anything, I just want to see how she looks and how she carries herself after, all the kind of questioning of the last season. So I think that's going to be really fascinating to watch. And Alex Gazan is just a stud. I love watching her and seeing what she can do. Kenneth says, Reps Ahead is growing on me. Still have hopes Fit Wars will come back. I've lost faith in Fit Wars. And I've talked to Wad Zombie about that. And I don't think he has any desire really to bring it back. He just wanted to show that it could be done. And I think Reps Ahead taking that is a good thing. It's different. It's fast. If I want to show somebody what CrossFit is, it's usually over in 5 minutes. So it's not something they have to invest an entire weekend in. And I can kind of show them briefly what it is and maybe get them more interested than if I was trying to get them to watch a CrossFit Games or a semifinal event or things like that. Kenneth also asks, have I watched the podcast on Madera's channel with him, Dal, and Justin? Pretty great conversation. Yeah, we actually talked about it at length last night on the Sunday Night CrossFit Show, that it was a gem of a podcast. Because mainly when I'm watching that kind of stuff, I'm looking for information to talk about on this show. And what I loved about that is I could just sit back and listen to them talk and laugh at their stories. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I cannot wait. They're doing 2 more, one on Dallin's channel, one on Hopper's channel. And so I can't wait to hear what those are like as well. And I think it's a great format. And I hope that other athletes look at what they're doing and maybe can pull the same thing off. But I think the key to it is that Justin was great as a moderator, kind of keeping the flow of the interview, or not interview, keeping the flow of the storytelling going in a way that made sense. So it's going to be interesting to see if, like, Dallin becomes the moderator when he does it on his channel, and if Hopper becomes the moderator on his channel. But I think that was key. that you have to have that person that kind of keeps you on track, keeps you rolling to the next subject, and keeps the stories flowing. So I don't know if it was intentional or if it just kind of happened to be that way, but Justin was awesome in that role. Kudos to him for the way he handled that, and really, really thoroughly enjoyed that podcast a lot. It was just a turn the brain off and let them tell stories. And I said last night, the story with Luke Parker and Jason Hopper is priceless. And every young person should hear that story, that, sometimes when you say things on social media, it's going to come back and bite you. So, but I thought that was hilarious. This might be too much information, Kenneth. I clean my bathrooms to that show. Yeah. The funny thing about the Dallin Pepper talking about Hopper rooting against him at West Coast Classic is I was at that event, and I actually was standing beside Hopper for a lot of that weekend. Where I was in the media pit is where Matt Frazier and Matt O'Keefe were, and Hopper was there with his wife. We actually did an interview with him and his wife for the Morning Chalk Up that weekend, up in a VIP suite, because he had killed it at Syndicate Crown earlier in the season, and he came out of nowhere. Nobody really knew who he was, so we were scrambling to get some interviews with him. And I believe that is where O'Keefe signed him as an agent, and maybe he signed with HWPO that weekend as well. It was crazy. I was standing right there for most of it. But yeah. Train to Live, unrelated, but with everything you have going on, are you still working with your nutrition coach? I've taken a break from the nutrition coach. I just needed to simplify some things in my life for a brief amount of time. I'm still working on my nutrition. I'm still losing weight. I'm still doing, all my blood markers are going great. I just had to kind of simplify things for me while everything else was going crazy around me. And that's just one thing that I could control. I love Cheryl. I think the world of her, and I'll probably hook back up with her in the near future. But I just needed something simpler for a brief minute. We had been working together for 2.5 years, and I just needed a break from the everyday of that. But yeah, still believe in the way she does things, still believe in her. And, yeah. Oh, this is questions for the Clydesdale day. What's your limit on a Lego set, whether it's pieces or price? I've been looking at Lord of the Rings sets, but it's like $1,000. So I don't think I've ever paid more than $100 for a Lego set. Most of my stuff is very small. My Chicago Bear Stadium, right? And that's not even officially Lego. That's Brixels. They're smaller bricks, really a pain in the butt, but that's about $100 right there. But I've been looking at some sets on the Lego website that are much more than that. There's a Friends set that I really, really like. There is an X-Men set that I think is really cool. It's the X-Men Mansion. But my nephew is also really into Lego, and he lives here in Columbus, and he just got the Daily Bugle from Spider-Man, and it is probably 4 to 5 feet tall, and it comes with like 30 minifigures. But it is from Spider-Man Across the Universe, and it is really cool. And he has not opened the box yet, so I can't wait for him to do that. But yeah, I've been working on a pirate parrot, which is the mascot for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and it's in the Brixel. So the bricks are probably a quarter of the size of a Lego brick, and I have to use tweezers sometimes to put it all together. Uh, but I'm almost finished with it. I should be done with it by the end of the day today. And I actually bought my wife her first Lego set for Christmas, and it is the characters from Up. Um, and it's called like Brickheads. So you actually build the people. It's not the minifigures. And she just put together Carl from Up, and it even has his little cane with the 4 tennis balls at the bottom. And then it has Kevin the bird and the kid, Russell the kid. And she really enjoyed it. And we talk about how satisfying it is to click those pieces together, and it's like a feeling of accomplishment. Every time you like hear the click, feel the click, it's it it's it just feels like you're accomplishing something, and it's so relaxing for me. So whenever I get a chance to do that, uh, I do, because it just chills me out immensely. But I was working on the Pirate Parrot, and I had to read the CrossFit rule book, and so I had to put that down till I could get that done, so we could talk about that last night. Um, and it's not a fun read to go through all that and take notes and be ready for show for that. So yeah, wow, got a lot out of this. So you guys are so I have not seen the Lord of the Rings sets, Kenneth. I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I've watched them all, of course, and I read The Hobbit in high school, but yeah. And there's like so many Star Wars ones, and I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I love Indiana Jones. That was my deal when I was a kid. I did like superhero stuff. I have seen the Avengers Tower in Lego, and that's pretty massive. That's a few $100s. But the X-Men Mansion really is what is probably the one that's in my head the most. And I think that's 200 or 300, maybe 300. So yeah, you said Star Wars ones are overpriced. Anything that's licensed, I hear is like super expensive because they have to pay the licensing fee to get those. So whether it's Lord of the Rings, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Friends, whether it's X-Men, Avengers, any of those, they have to pay a licensing fee, which jacks the price way up. If you just want like a car, they're way, way cheaper. Jeff Jay Birch taught with the young man who built a Stadium 5 rocket. That's really cool. Saturn 5 rocket. Got Stadium on the brain. All right. Train to Live. Bringing us back to CrossFit. Yeah, CrossFit NorCal workout with traveling double unders. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. And it's for the qualifier, right? So I think anytime you add elements to the jump rope, it becomes a party trick in some form or fashion. I think heavy ropes and double unders and are fine when you start doing like the crossover thing, because I am not the fittest person in the world, but I have done crossovers my whole life. Crossover double unders are just easy for me. It's a party trick that I've had since I was like 5 years old. And when I would be at the gym and we're doing double unders, I would just mess around and do crossovers just to like talk smack to my friends. So when that got introduced, I thought it was a little bit of a party trick. And I kind of feel the same way with the traveling double unders, although it's a lot more simpler than a crossover because you're really just bounding off your toes and you're just shooting yourself forward with every jump. It shouldn't I haven't really tried it, to be honest with you. I just think that it's not that hard, but it's kind of a party trick. I don't know. Kenneth says it's NorCal. They had a bucket hold last year, just a NorCalism. I get that, but now you are an event qualifying people to the CrossFit Games. At some point, you need to test the right things to get the right people to the CrossFit Games. And by doing traveling double unders, what are you testing that tells you that that's the best athlete for the CrossFit Games? So I think that's the question you have to ask, whether you like them or not. Double unders with a weighted vest would be a better alternative. I don't disagree with that. I think that's very similar to like the weighted handles or the weighted ropes. Yeah, I think that's less gimmicky than traveling. And so what are they measuring distance, time? Like, it doesn't matter how many double unders you do as long as you make it from point A to point B in such time. Do they have to be unbroken? I guess I need to look into a little more. But yeah, I do think when you are an independent competition, you can do all the fun stuff like the bucket holds and the traveling double unders and all of that stuff, right? When you are now qualifying someone to the CrossFit Games, I think you need to like pull your stuff in so that it meets the requirement that you're getting the right people to the finals of the season. The distance increases each round on the traveling dubs. Do they have to be unbroken? Or if you break, do you go back to where you started to jump from the last one? Gosh, that seems like a judging nightmare. I would almost think that it would have to be unbroken, or you're putting a lot of pressure on a judge. So yeah, I like the guys at NorCal. I think they try to go old school with a lot of their stuff, which I do find to be a good thing. Um, I hope they stay away from the gimmicky thing and get the right people to the CrossFit Games, because they are essentially going to be the last chance qualifier. They are the last event on the calendar where people are going to go and try to get their way to the games, meaning they're going to have every big name that has not qualified is going to sign up for that. And it's going to be insane. It's going to be a great competition. And I just hope that they do their best to make it a great test to get the right people to the CrossFit Games. Not sure where Lex is with these answers. I think it's broken into 25-foot segments. Okay, that makes a little more sense. Unbroken for 25 feet would be okay. I still don't, I'm not in love with this, but Lex was here off the top of the show, but I know she works too, so maybe she's at work. But yeah. But I do know that, Carolyn probably will be at NorCal because Lex lives right there. That's an easy competition for them to get to. It cuts down on travel for sure. So yeah. Craig, did you talk about no quarterfinals this year? At the affiliate, I heard members who made quarterfinals last year seem bummed about no quarterfinals this year. I don't think they'll sign up this year. So I know we talked about it briefly on Sunday Night CrossFit Talk because Jamie had the same sentiments that you're talking about here. She has athletes that just missed quarterfinals last year, and it was their goal to make quarterfinals this year. Now, with the Community Cup, you would know if you made it if you were a level 8 or up, and then some of the 7s. So, so you can still kind of test yourself to see if you make it in. You're shooting for a level now, as opposed to a thing called quarterfinals, and then you get to compete against the people in your level group. Which, if you are a 7 or an 8, you get to compete with all the 7s and 8s. And they're called something, and I don't remember exactly what that is, but there's like a pro, advanced, intermediate, rookie, and it's every 2 levels. So level 1 and 2 are rookie. I don't remember I think level 3 and 4 are scaled number. I don't know. I don't want to say anything and misspeak, but yeah, and then you'll get to compete against people in that group. So you still get that opportunity. It's just not called quarterfinals anymore. Yeah. NorCal still being exclusively streamed by Savon. I know it's being streamed by Savon. I heard them say that on the spin. Whether that is exclusive or not, I do not know. I would guess yes, because I don't think they'd want to invest in more streaming when there's someone already streaming. But Bill and John will be calling the NorCal Classic. They announced that on the spin, not last week, maybe. Do we know if the levels carry over, or is it just based on this year? I was bummed about not having quarterfinals, but I have some hope with the explanation of the Community Cup. I don't know. I don't know if it carries over. I think at least some aspect of it should. How that would look, I don't know, but it seems right now it's in a very simplistic state where it is where it seems to be just the year we're in. But I think they want to see like the engagement of this and how many people actually sign up. And then we'll go from there and see, maybe they'll tweak it or something in the future. Craig says no one's really promoting the Community Cup. Well, Dave just put on Instagram 2 days ago the explanation of what the Community Cup is and how it works. So I think that's the first time we've actually understood how it's going to be, and that was just 2 days ago. And I think I'll pull that up and we can play that, because he really does explain it well and what the divisions are. Let me pull that up super fast here. And I'll just play it live on here, and you can watch it from here. Hit the wrong. Okay. So here we go.
Long as it always has been. Out of the open, once you finish the 3 workouts, you'll be assigned a level 10 all the way down to 1. Those are the percentage range. The percentage you finish in the open determines your level. So if you finish in the 50th percentile in the open, you're a level 5 athlete. Once you have your level, then in the Community Cup, you will be assigned a category. So you're a pro, an advanced, intermediate, novice, or rookie. So in the example of 50 percentile, I finished in the 50th percentile from the open. in this intermediate category. In the Community Cup, you will then have the ability to compete amongst these categories against your peers, essentially. It'll be 1 week, 3 events across that 1 week. So the goal out of the Open is to try to perform as well as you can and be in the highest level possible that you can be in to then compete against people in your categories. The workouts will be programmed appropriately for each group. So if we use an example of Diane, 2159 handstand push-ups, deadlifts, the rookies might use 135 and substitute for the handstand push-ups, where the pros might do handstand walk, and we might amp it up to 275. So it'll be programmed appropriately for the group. The reason we did this is to give more athletes from the Open an opportunity to compete in another stage of competition, and I hope to see you on the leaderboard. So
that is Dave's explanation as to what the Community Cup is. As you can see, the percentile, that's one thing I actually missed the first time I watched it. Like a level 10, you have to be 99th percentile or 100th percentile. 9 is 88 to 98. And then it goes down from there, and kind of the gap widens a little bit. But yeah, to be in that pro division, it's really the upper, like, level 10 is the 2% in the world. 9 is 88 to 98. And then all of that would be the pro from 88 to 100. And then you get to compete in that pro division in the Community Cup. So, yep. And that's what they're trying to do. It's allowing everybody in the CrossFit world, not just the top 25%, but everybody an opportunity to keep playing. So instead of quarterfinals, we have this where everybody gets to go on, but you get to compete in your division against people of your level. Kenneth says, I'm not quoting this by any means, just how I understood it, but last night on 7 Hiller mentioned the need of news updates coming from an actual brick and mortar HQ as opposed to just Dawn or Dave. So I watched that as I was going to bed last night. And I think what they were trying to say is what needs to happen for CrossFit to grow. And they were saying that it really needs to have a group of people in a brick and mortar building who can share creative ideas and bounce things off of each other to come up with newer and greater ideas. What I have always complained about is I hate that the news comes out from an individual's Instagram account. If you're going to be a legit company, there are press releases. They do press releases, but they choose not to use them in some aspects. If you're going to release information on the Community Cup, do a press release. There are now all these third-party media companies who want content to talk about on their shows, and they can grab the press release, and we can get, that's just a marketing thing that would help them move forward. Instead, we have to scour Instagram, see what Dave's saying, see what the CrossFit Games page is saying, see what the CrossFit page is saying. And then, God forbid, if Don Fall does a podcast, you need to make sure you go see that to see what he is saying and what information is being released there. It's just being released from every different aspect instead of one simple place for a press release where we can all grab that and we can talk about it with our audience and have these discussions like we're having today, which I think are invaluable and great for marketing. Because we just showed that Instagram thing, and Craig's going to tell his members tonight on how it all works and kind of promote it from a grassroots level. That's what makes CrossFit great. When you do things in a way that allow the grassroots marketing of what we do, then things get better. But there's tons of us out there. There's me, there's Coffee Pods Mods, there's Savon, there's Hiller, there's Talking Elite Fitness, there's Get With the Programming. When all those people start talking about this stuff, it will spread like wildfire. We just have to get it out to them in a way that makes sense. D. Reed says if CrossFit HQ centralizes communications, they will need an infrastructure to do that. Kind of goes against their current staffing trend. I see what you're saying. I do think that. So this, okay. I work from home. I work for the state of Ohio. We have meetings all the time where we talk about things. We bounce ideas off each other, but we have a very structured meeting set up throughout the week to be able to do that. I just don't. I'm not a firm believer where it has to be brick and mortar, but you have to have systems set up where you are in communication with other people in your units to bounce ideas off one another. It has to be forced, because if you're working from home, the trend is you just want to dive into your work, but you have to have mandatory meetings where people come, we talk, we bounce ideas off each other. It took a couple of years for us to figure that out. We've gotten there, and I think CrossFit could do the same thing. So, right, exactly. We use Microsoft Teams all the time, Jay Birch. And we actually are forced to be on video. When we first came home, we didn't have to be, and people weren't on video. We are now forced to have our video on whenever we're on MS Teams, and so that we can talk and be interactive with each other. So, Kenneth, thank you. Like and subscribe, support the show for free. Yeah, my lunch hour is just about over. I do want a couple reminders, other than the like and subscribe. And hey, and if you're listening to us, this show's doing really well on audio. So if you're listening to us on Spotify or iTunes or Amazon Music or any of those, make sure you leave a 5-star review there as well. But I want to remind you, we have my first interview with an athlete since the CrossFit Games. I've taken a break from that for about 6 months. We are having Hattie Canio on tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time to talk about her off season, what the season looks like for her, what she's going to do this season coming up, and can't wait to catch up with an old friend. If you don't know, we used to do a show together where she was live from Bali and training there. And so we're going to have her on tonight to talk about her first games experience. Probably didn't go the way she had planned. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about what she has looking forward to this season. And she's actually had a pretty awesome off season. So can't wait for that. And then tomorrow, he just popped into the chat, Corey Leonard will be with me on Lunch with the Clydesdale tomorrow. We are now calling Tuesdays Top 5 Tuesdays. And tomorrow's subject is top 5 CrossFitters you would like to have a drink with. So we're going to do that tomorrow. So if you have your list, you can make it up tonight, and you can compare to Corey and I's list tomorrow. We'll debate that. If you guys have any questions tomorrow, Corey's a master's athlete trying to make his way to the CrossFit Games in the next few years. We'll talk a little bit about his experience at Legends this year, which was his goal, and then what he's doing to move forward as an athlete in the master space. With that, guys, thank you so much for a great lunch hour. Didn't hit any of my notes because your questions were awesome, and I can't wait to chat with you again tomorrow. And don't forget to check out Sunday Night CrossFit last night. It was a great show. Carolyn and I had a lot of interaction. You guys in the chat were killing it last night with questions, and we had a really good time. So if you missed last night, go check that out. It's really good. With that, we'll see everybody next time on Lunch with the Clydesdale. Peace.